Representative Jim Clyburn, Democrat of South Carolina, is urging black elders to tell young black voters to cast their ballots for President Biden in November. Clyburn, the Biden campaign's 2024 co-chair, told NOTUS that older black Americans should try and talk some sense into their children. Clyburn's comments come as polls show Biden struggling with younger black voters and as a growing number of black men indicate they may support former President Trump come November. Young black voters are specifically disappointed in the administration's response to the war in Gaza. Meanwhile, concerns over the economy, criminal justice reform, and voting rights are all top-of-mind concerns for black voters more broadly. But Clyburn appeared shocked by the notion that any black voter would support Trump, who recently claimed that he had done more for black people than anyone except possibly President Lincoln. He's made that claim before. I guess they're just repeating it again. If you believe that, your parents should have sent their mule to school and kept you at home, said Clyburn. He added that if black voters do throw their support behind Trump in November, the former president will undoubtedly win. We may be back into Jim Crow again, he said. Clyburn said young voters may be enamored with Trump in part because older black Americans have not spoken about what they endured before and during the civil rights movement. I know what I had to go through. I know what I saw my parents going through, he said. He added that the indignities that my mother and my father had to endure so I could be where I am at today need to be shared with the younger generation. If I see and hear from a candidate that they want to bring those indignities back to the process, I've got an obligation to sit with these children of mine and say, what the hell are you thinking about, Clyburn said. Clyburn added that he is committed to fighting for Biden's reelection. I'm going to do everything I can to try and compete and win, he said. We may not be able to. My parents could not. The Trump campaign in response said it was making inroads with black voters because of former President Trump's records and dissatisfaction with the Biden presidency. Representative Clyburn knows that President Trump is up to 23% in the polls with black voters, a record high that we haven't seen in decades, said Janiyah Thomas, black media director for the Trump campaign. The reason is clear. Black voters know that our lives were exponentially better under President Trump. We were richer under Trump. With Trump, we were safer with Trump. We were more confident with Trump, Thomas said. Today, black voters are frustrated with the Biden administration's prioritizing illegal immigrants over our own interests and Joe's disastrous policies that have done nothing for our communities. Besides, drive up the cost of gas, groceries, and rent, while making it nearly impossible to buy a new home, start a new business, or save money for the future. Team Trump's outreach to minority communities is a stark contrast to Joe Biden's failing campaign, whose only tactic is to gaslight black voters with desperate ads and pandering speeches that fail to address Biden's terrible policies, Thomas concluded in the statement. Oh boy, a lot to unpack there. So, I said this yesterday, but there's something really sad about the idea that candidates get excited about getting a quarter, not even a full quarter, close to a quarter of an ethnic group, and not even an ethnic group, of a gender of an ethnic group to support them. That's really we're I'm telling you, some of us are just so stuck in our ways. Ooh, I have 20% of support among black men. Okay, but what about black women? What about the other 80% that couldn't stand you and want you to not have another term? But anyways, I have said before, I get tired of all the claims that this person doesn't like this person's race, etc. There is nothing that, and I don't care who gets mad at me, there is nothing that Trump has said that in any way should convince a single person that if he's able to win another term, we're going to go back to Jim Crow. If you want to talk about him, trying to suspend the Constitution, or I already said before, the party of we'll get into his campaign guy later, but if you want to talk about him trying to suspend the Constitution, of it being the end of democracy, stuff like that, that's a lot more palpable than we're going to have these discriminatory policies that were not there during his original term or actual term. So that's Clyburn being hyperbolic. That's Clyburn just saying some stuff that I don't think is true, and that I think any person who remembers 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, we remember that Trump was president and there was no Jim Crow. So that's just him trying to stoke some fear. The the part about, going to your children and saying what the hell are you thinking about, I believe it is a mistake of both members of the Democratic Party and people that just in general support Biden getting another term to look at Trump's support among black voters, and not even black voters but black males, and just condemn them. Maybe you should actually hear them out. Maybe you should actually talk about the things for which they are dissatisfied with. I mean, as goofy as this campaign spokesperson was, or I guess the black media director is, they knew to, I don't know if this is a man or woman, Janaya, at least, talk about a couple of issues of substance, right? Even if the framing is disingenuous. Cost of gas, groceries, and rent. Rent has been high, especially in California, for decades. I mean, this is whether Biden or Trump is president, that won't change. But I guess we can go over this statement. Rep. Clyburn knows that President Trump is up, 23% of the black voters know that our lives were exponentially better under President Trump. We were richer with Trump. We were safer, more confident. That's all, again, like platitudes, no specifics. And, that's just like stuff you say to make the other person sound good. I do like the part of we were safer with Trump. I mean, I hate to talk about the Unite the Right rally, whatever that Charlottesville thing was, or who could forget Trump's eggs on January 6th, but, that's the president of Law and Order, from the party of Law and Order. God, I do like the prioritizing illegal immigrants over our own interests. I don't see that as true at all. And like I said, I'm more disappointed by the fact that we have two parties that really couldn't care less about African Americans whatsoever. I mean, the Democrats, as long as they think they can get that 80-90% of the black vote, they don't feel like they have to do anything. You're just going to come to them anyway. And the Republicans know they don't have to appeal to us to win, so they just throw their hands up and go, whatever, I don't need you. I do notice a lot of Trump sycophants, including the ones that appear in my comment section, tend to say that he did something for blacks. I'm going to make this exponentially clear. Trump is in no way any more beneficial to blacks than Biden is. It's going to be the same lack of ability to address anything that afflicts that community whatsoever. And it's unfortunate that when his supporters come and they start singing the song of how great he was, no one brings up any specifics. Like, in my previous video, the one from yesterday, I went over several areas where he could do something, but you don't see them actually addressing that. They just repeat talking points. Lowest black unemployment. That's usually the one they throw around the most. There's a couple more that get shuffled here and there. But it's just sad that, like, we're stuck between these two political parties that don't do anything for us. And it really is like pick your poison. You either get with the one that thinks it's going to have your vote no matter what, or the one that is most certainly going to barely get any of your votes, but is going to keep, singing a half-true song about how the other side doesn't care about you, which to that you should say, okay, but what are you going to do for me either? And the answer is nothing, because it's all just a game, man. Whose side wins what. And it's unfortunate because there are plenty of issues that affect black voters that neither party really seems to be all that interested in addressing. Talk about these low wages. Talk about the disproportionate number of incarcerations for blacks over nonviolent crimes. I mean, this is stuff that should be addressed by both parties, but neither of the old men they're running seem to give a damn. So we're going to see more disenfranchisement, unfortunately. And at least after this election cycle is over, we'll be done with both Biden and Trump forever, seemingly. And that'll be the one good thing to come out of this year.